Love is in the air. Heaven Sent Flowers has the perfect gift for your special someone. Whether it be something sweet, something cuddly, or one of their beautiful flower arrangements, Heaven Sent Flowers has it all. Heaven Sent Flowers delivers to Ashland and to Shady Cove and all places in between. Check out their website, flowerseaglepoint.com. Like them on Facebook to see more of their arrangements under Heaven Sent Flowers, or call them at 541-826-2536 for a chance to win an elegant dozen red roses. Comment #FlowersForMe under the rose post under OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to enter daily. Winner will be announced Friday, February 28th on our social medias. Heaven Sent Flowers and Gifts, where it smells heavenly.
Perspectives change with broken strings and worn out souls. Years ago and some with wings. Some are old, some undersold. To grow we need to rely on and try on some other people's shoes. Some other people's shoes.
Feeling sorry for myself just like it's poor me. Nobody needs no rapper that turned 43. Close the book upon this chapter, throw away the keys. Not sure what's coming next, cause this is all I see, but R.I.P. running out of words to speak. My wife is by my side, but she needs more from me. I know my God has promised to supply my needs, but if I'm being honest, that's getting hard to see. But more of me, less of you. I need to flip that up and just embrace the truth. Sometimes I want to escape and be like, what's the use? A lot of things has changed from when you're 22. I'm going through these motions of what I'm called to do. I'm drowning in this ocean, it's getting hard to move. Cause I just hold it in just when I'm rolling through. I'm falling in, show me what to do. It's time that I just face the fact. Feel like I'm running down my victory lap. Hit the lights cause I ain't coming back. I think I'm running down my victory lap.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. Of course, you know I'm your host, Neil Matthews. What a privilege it is today to sit with this gentleman. Let me introduce him to you. He's a father. He's a rapper that in itself needs like just way more introduction. He's a speaker. He's a podcaster. He's a mentor. He's a coach. He's also a pastor. So be careful what you say today or what you may be thinking today, right? He's also got 20 plus years in the music industry. His latest project, which I'm excited about because of the name itself, just demands some answers. Victory Lap, his album and book, coming out to a store and a platform near you. Help me welcome in my guest, long awaited, probably the guest we've waited for the longest, KJ52, also known as Jonah. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. That is a phenomenal introduction.
It's probably the best you've ever gotten, right?
Easily.
Okay, that's what easily
Gold
what
standard.
I thought. So,
Gold standard.
little full disclosure, here in Oregon, we're excited to have you. Obviously, you're 3 hours ahead of us, so we're just gonna leave it at that. When people hear this, they'll be like, "Man, Neil loves his show that much." Yes, I love what God is doing in my show that much that I'm willing to make sacrifices for a great guy like this. So, I also got to tell you, I am wearing my. I know you never signed with him, as far as I know. But I'm wearing my Goatee Records hat that I got from Ryan Stevenson.
Oh, wow.
In honor of you being on
dude,
today.
I would rock that.
Yeah, no one.
wear
Yeah,
that.
I usually rock it every episode, but anyway. So I'm channeling my inner like Toby Mac right now, like trying to get in the hip hop scene for you. So
Yeah, let me know how that goes.
yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. I've only met him once, so but anyway, that's another story. So KJ, Jonah, what size shoe do you wear? We always lead off with that, so help us with that.
Well, it's weird. I mean, I used to like kind of in my head clown middle-aged men as they got older, and they'd wear these dad shoes, those like big Air Monarchs or the New Balance, you know. And I never understood why they wore those boats. They feel like canoe paddles. And my foot size has gone up a size.
Is that real life? Like your foot has really gone up a whole size?
It has actually gone from a 12 to a 13,
Wow.
which I was just flabbergasted to find out. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen. Like, they're like, no, actually, as you age, your feet, you've been standing on them for so long, they actually get bigger. So I think in most men's cases, their feet get wider. So that's why they have to wear those big, I call them dad shoes. But
Yeah, I'm with you on the dad shoes. Yeah.
yeah, so it was hard enough getting size 12 sneakers. Going into the 13 size has now been an interesting challenge. So sometimes I get great deals because no one wants to buy them.
They're not Velcro, are they?
But I'm a 13 now.
They're not Velcro, are they?
No, but I would rock a pair of like kangaroo Velcros.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Walter Payton wore those kangaroo shoes back in the 85.
He did.
So
85. Yeah, they had the little pouch.
Yeah, I remember those.
You felt like amazing.
I mean, I was like 5, but yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. Well, anytime you're packing,
dating myself,
and it's concealed, it's like,
yeah,
it's not me.
Well, today I have on my Asics because I'm going to run later. I have my Asics. These are the Noosa, and I want to say they're the 8s, Noosa 8s, but they're not size 8, but they're ocean because they're light blue, which is my obsessive color. So
I'm a sneakerhead. Asics got some fresh colors, but
they do. They look like somebody threw paint on them. So I feel like I'm also channeling you a little bit because they got that kind of graffiti look to it,
Yeah, I think I might have those. I bought a pair of Asics, but they didn't work. I had to run in Brooks.
Oh, Brooks are good too.
Total old man.
Yeah,
man vibes.
Brooks are good too. I've never owned a pair of Brooks. Surprisingly, people will be like, "What, Neil? You don't have a pair of Brooks because you have like 50 plus pairs of shoes?" Yeah, I don't own Brooks. So, anyway, I'm sure people didn't come on to hear us talk about shoes, even though I do obsess about shoes, which is another story in itself. But how the heck did you get involved in hip hop? Like, I mean, can we go back in time for a minute, jump into DeLorean with you?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like hip hop is the music for people who can't do music traditionally. Like it's side road next to the highway. So I grew up in an artistic home, but not a musical home in the sense of like I didn't learn to play the piano, or I didn't learn to sing or anything like that. So like, without any formal music training, hip hop showed me I could make music. Without any formal singing training, hip hop showed me that I could still say what I wanted to say. And it's not even just limited to the music aspect. Like art was my thing, but when art's your thing, you kind of want to find your own version of it that your parents did. My parents were artists, so like I'm like, well, spray cans seem cooler than paintbrushes, So yeah, I mean, that was it. I just saw these guys creating stuff out of nothing, and that was fascinating to me.
I think that in itself is fascinating, right? You see this genre, right? Which I'm gonna be honest too. Like I gravitated to Belle Biv DeVoe, before I heard about DC Talk. I'm sure they were kicking it with DC Talk, probably not in the same concert scene, but Bobby Brown, New Edition, gosh. Criss Cross as I got older, Jump, those guys. But I was always blown away in Snow. I'm thinking of another white rapper. I don't know why, but maybe because I just threw him on my sister's playlist. Yeah, the Canadian dude, right? But he was so fast, and to me, being a kid that loved hip hop, I'm always fascinated by how fast you guys can speak it. And of course, NF now, I love his stuff. But it's so amazing to me that you guys can put so much word and so much word play into hip hop. It's mind blowing to me, just as a guy that can't do it. And I probably could. I'm really good on the radio, like singing along in my car, but like in front of a mic to start rapping right now, not gonna happen. So that's awesome. So so your name, where does KJ52 come from? I know you probably told this story 1,000 times, but for us, help us out.
Well, I mean, I used to go by King J, back in the day. I mean, that's the hokiest. King J Mac was my first name, and it's just, I don't know. It's like what Lil is today. Like everybody's Lil, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? So like you could come up with a rap name with using like the initials of your name plus Mac at the end. You know what I mean? Like it was just an easy, like instant name generator. So I think that's what I only did that for a couple of years. At some point, it was just like, this is just too long. It sounds corny. someone said, you should go by KJ. And I thought, all right, that's a little easy to remember. And the truth is, that's 5'2". There was no significance to it. Like, it just literally sounded cool in my head. And long story short, I wind up, picking it on a whim, like when I'm 18, 19. And then I was stuck with it. I mean, then later on, I was like, well, let's try and attach some meaning to it. I'm looking at scripture. Jesus takes 5 loaves, 2 fish, he multiplies it. Like, that's a good thing to keep in mind. You know what I mean? Like, God's in the business of multiplication, but in his timing. So it just kind of grew out of that. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, like anything, everything seems like a great idea when you're 18.
That is true. Everything sounds so much better when you're 18, right? My hand's up on that.
Absolutely. Until you're, years later, you're like, I probably should have spelled it out. Oh well.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I grew up in California, Southern California area, so not like Florida, but I've been in Florida, but similar to Florida. And I surfed, I played street hockey, I said dude probably every other word. I mean, California kid, and I moved to Oregon and got my hat backwards first day of school, and my overalls back in the day, when you'd let them dangle. I know you did that. Don't deny that. And I literally had like one of those like Baja, you know what I'm talking about? Those Baja kind of sweatshirt looking things. Looks like a carpet hoodie, so to speak. You ever have those out there?
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, man, it's like 95 degrees outside.
Okay,
so
that's true.
There is some translation from Cali culture, but
okay.
We did definitely pretend like we could surf.
All right.
But
but you remember those, right? You remember those like Baja kind of sweatshirt things? Okay. So I'm wearing that like the first day of school, and everybody's like making fun of me, like clowning on me, like nobody's business. And so I adopted the name. This is embarrassing. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you, but I adopted the name Ruggy D.
You said, say Lucky B?
No, Ruggy, like the rug.
Oh.
Ruggy.
Ruggy B.
Ruggy
D.
Ruggy
B.
was my like street name. So
that's good. You could get away from the cops with a fake name real quick.
Sixth grade, I was Ruggy D the whole year. Like, I that's what I wanted all my friends to call me, and it didn't stick.
That's good.
Thank God it did not stick.
How'd that work out for you?
Not well. No. Yeah. No. So, I mean, I wasn't 18, but, I was like 13, but it translates. So, so what was your vision like growing up? And then how's your vision like changed now? Because I know that's probably been quite the metamorphosis, if you will.
Well, I mean, like my situation is where I came to faith at 15. So that was a very definitive moment. Growing up, I guess it would depend on what spot you hit me at. But I mean, I don't know if things have changed that much over the years. I mean, like I felt a call to the ministry at 16. I was, writing Christian hip hop by 17, 18. I think the only thing that might have really changed is probably some of my dogmatic view on life, as a young kid in the faith. I mean, I think I've probably over the years learned to like temper my zeal with some balance. But I don't think it's really changed. I mean, I went to my high school reunion, 6 years ago. And, I just remember one of the girls was like, you're the exact same person from back then. And I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? She's like, no, it's a good thing. So I don't know. I don't think there was that much difference. You know what I mean? Post coming to Christ.
That's good, right? I mean, that's good when we can go back in time and we can see those that knew us, kind of back then, and they're like, hey, you're the same. I hope for that. I mean, sure. I don't know if I've changed that much as far as vision and identity goes, but maybe. So I got to ask you, because about this crowdfund thing that you did for your latest project, Victory Lap, not only the album, but the book. And I'm excited to talk to you about that. I'm excited to get my hands on it. First off, your first book blew my mind away. Like, I powered through it in like a day, the audio version, because I'm not a sit down, read a book kind of guy. But the audio version just, like, I had to get to the next chapter. I had to get to the next adventure. And I want to talk about one of the chapters in particular here in a minute. But before we get to that, how humbling was that to put out the crowdfundme and then maybe walk us through that process in your mind of like, is this going to really work? Are my fans going to show up?
Well, I mean, this time around, it wasn't as daunting because I mean I've already done four crowdfunds I think previous approximately. So like I wasn't. I don't think I was necessarily worried about the crowdfund because the book had done really really well. I think I was more concerned with what this one represented. You know what I'm saying? Like that was more my thought process. Like, well, how do I disseminate this in a way that's not, that's truthful, that is transparent, but brings the need, and is not closing doors that I don't want to close. So it's funny you say all this because the first chapter, it's not even a chapter, it's an introduction to the new book, is the story about writing the story. Like it's really ironic that what I went to go write the story and it became literally what the story was. And it's hard to explain without actually you reading it or seeing it or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like, look, I got nothing to complain about. Like my fan base has shown up repeatedly. It just happened to be this time around. They showed up in like biggest numbers yet. You know what I mean? So very encouraged by that.
Well, right. I mean, what was the goal, if you don't mind sharing?
The goal was I think the goal was 15,000 maybe. Maybe it was 12. I honestly don't remember. I think it was 15,000.
But you surpassed it by, I mean, not like a couple of dollars. I mean, you surpassed it by, if I'm not mistaken, like thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, the final number I think was close to 26,000.
Yeah, so I'm watching this. First off, full disclosure for my listeners, we've tried to get KJ for a while, since the first book. So this is exciting for us. But through different circumstances, scheduling, whatever, it's finally happening now, which we're excited about. But I went to my executive producer who has 25% stake in my show. And I said, his name's Garrett. And I said, Garrett, we got to fund this guy. And he goes, are you serious? Like, that's a lot of money for us. Like $150 plus shipping. So it's $160, our investment into you, which, believe me, I wish I could have done more, but God hasn't fully, blessed our show. Well, he's blessed it, but not financially as of yet. He's waiting for me to really get more involved or something. I don't know. We'll move on from that. But I told him, I was like, we got to get involved in this. Like, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of what he's doing and get into that world and to find out how he's doing it and obviously support you in that. So it was an honor for us to do that. But so I'm watching this thing grow every day, and I'm thinking, man, what an amazing opportunity that God is not only showing up in your life, but people just showing up, just shelling out the love. And I loved along the way your Facebook quotes and you would do some stuff like, hey, here's why, and you would give reasons why. And then people's comments, which they always say don't read the comments, but right, it's hard not to read the comments.
Yeah.
So many times you're like defending yourself in a righteous way, defending yourself like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Hey, I'm not stopping music. This is just a chapter closing. But anyway, I was just blown away by your crowdfunding on that. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I think this time around, I mean, normally I probably would have just let some stuff fly. I think this time around it just bared, explaining and whatever. And if someone wants to go sideways with it, I'm just not the type to be like, oh, shucks, gee, golly, lovers. Like I'm just not that type of person to do that. Right. Now, within that context of that, some of that is, the reality is too, I mean, this is full disclosure, the more you engage in your posts, it drives up the visibility. So part of me was like, well, if I go out here and I start engaging, it creates visibility in the algorithm that actually lets people see what's going on. You know what I mean? So, I'm not just fighting like apathy and streaming and a litany of other things. Like I'm literally fighting a social media that doesn't want engagement. You know what I mean? They want you to pay for them, which is a scam in itself. So, I don't know. I mean, look, I've just been the firm believer that just put it out there and let people make their own decisions. There's no reason to hide anything if you've got nothing to hide. So.
Well said. No, I like that, especially that last part. If you got nothing to hide, why hide it? No, I love that, absolutely.
Exactly.
And
here's why.
Yeah.
We put up a highlight reel. That's the way we really live our lives these days.
Right.
Yeah. So, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm curious. Back in the day, you had this like moniker or slogan, and I think you say it at a couple of your songs. I know you say it at the end of Dear Slim, which we don't necessarily need to talk about that. But you had one love, one God, one way. I got to tell you, when I heard that back in the day, that resonated with me. I put it on emails for a long time, like personal emails. Like that was my signature at the bottom. So I'm sorry, I stole that from you. Please forgive me. But
somebody else.
Oh, okay.
It's a comment. Well,
and that's what I was going to ask. Like, where did that come from?
It came from a couple things. I mean, one, it was a common phrase in hip hop when I came up to say one love, which is really actually a Jamaican phrase. It's a reggae phrase. So I was just taking my influences and putting my own spin on them. So like for me to say one love, one God, one way, most rappers would have just stopped at one love or one. They'd be like, when they're leaving, they'd be like one. You know what I mean? They would just say one. So I was like, well, I see things in light of God's word. One love is cultural, one God. That's actually the Shema. I'm saying it wrong, but that's what Jewish people, Orthodox, pray every day. Hear, O Israel, your Lord is God, your Lord is one. So it was that. And then one way is my saying this is New Testament. You know what I mean? Like Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. You know what I mean? So it's just a progressive statement. It's like saying one love is cultural, one God is, a very universal thing. But one way, for me, takes it one step further,
No, like I said, when I heard that, I was like, okay, that's mine. That's mine now. You can't have it back, because I was really excited about it. And I'm serious. Like, I put it on emails. I'm not an artist, but I like tried to draw like a one and everything coming. I don't know. It's middle school still.
Well, I've seen it tattooed on fans. Like I've seen it, shaved in people's heads. So that's cool. I mean, look, you make phrases and statements for the people. It's not once you put it out there, it's not yours anymore.
Well, that's nice that you let me have it, and there's no lawsuit like pending, because we don't have lawyers yet. So that would have been bad. But so
you're welcome. No problem.
So KJ, I'm gonna put you on the spot because I know you love to do this, and maybe you do, and so I'm gonna put you on the spot. I don't know if you have your notebook handy or where you're at, but I'm gonna give you 3 phrases, and I'd like to see what you can come up with. Actually, I'm gonna give you 4 because I'm gonna challenge you. Right, 3's easy, 4 is maybe more of a challenge. But I want to give you 3 phrases and see if you can come up with a freestyle rap for us. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, just let me give me 1 second to put you on speaker so I can. I don't like freestyle acapella, so let me get a beat going on my CD.
All right,
hold on.
Sounds good. So we'll give him a minute to do that.
But I can multitask. You can give me the words.
All right, you want the words?
Of course.
So this will be really easy for you, I'm sure. Other people's shoes, and then your 4th word is perspective.
Okay. Other people's shoes. Perspective. All right, let's do this on the TV.
I hear some typing in the background.
You know what? I knew that might be. Sorry, just playing quietly. Huh. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm about to pay these dues. I'm over here while I'm standing in other people's shoes. Yup. And now I'm about to check it. Once you do that, you can get some real perspective. Like a record every time I'm going through. I got some other people's songs and I'm going to. And I have to grab the shoe, and it's unlikely. If I get the other people's shoes, it's probably Nike. Yup. Okay, now you can see this. I can rock Adidas, represent my Jesus. Yup. Okay, I gotta keep it fly. Yeah, perspective comes from the other eye. Yeah. It's now got to walk by, so I can walk fly. Now I'm up in the morning. It's like 10 in the morning. Man, it's really early. Plus I feel I'm yawning. looking for my shoes. Okay, now there they are. Got them in their shoes, and I'm headed to my car. Yep. You can see me while I'm talking. I got a new perspective. I can see it while I'm walking. Kind of like I'm stalking it on down. Yep. I got the other shoes on the ground. Yep. And I can see when I'm running through. Got a different perspective. I can see what you're going through. What you going, dude. I'm about to wake up. Yep. I climb it up like the ladder of Jacob. Yep. Illin' like some kids when they break up. This is my cross on my back I take up every single day. I'm walking on the way. Other people's shoes. They feel okay. Yeah. You got to get out of your mindset. You can understand where they're going when I rhyme. Yeah. Yeah. Now my cat's looking at me, staring at me. Okay, now I gladly shoot him to the other side, but you can't see it because it's audio. But I had to confide in you. Just telling you what did that be going on. I be steady over here, and I keep on going strong. I got a song, and I'm about to drop it. Yeah, it's small, kind of microscopic, but that would be my check-it so I can see what's going on and get a new perspective. Yeah, so 3, 2, 1. I think the freestyle, well, it's about to get done. But I had a little fun. Got to load it up. I'm done with the gun.
That was awesome, man. That was so good.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
the
that's good.
synapses aren't quite firing all the way yet.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
Waking up.
Yeah, no, I get it. Cold shower, man. Cold shower. I've heard that word.
Cold shower.
I read that or saw that on the internet. This dude was like talking about cold showers and synapses firing. Like I had to Google all that, like half of what he was saying. So, oh wait, that was you. Oh, sorry.
That was me.
That was
wasn't somebody else, but yes.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that with us. We appreciate that. So hopefully we can incorporate that somehow into the show because we'd love to do that. So as I said at the onset, wearing my my Goatee Records hat. Full disclosure, till you came along, like Toby was my whole world. DC Talk, those guys, they were.
That's okay. That's a good world to be in.
They were so amazing, and my Toby Mac story is really lame, but I was starstruck when I talked to him, and he did sign a pair of my Adidas Tracy McGrady T Max. They sit in my studio right now, and I can actually see them from where I'm sitting. But
there you go.
But I didn't know what to say to him. All I could get out was, your music changed my life. It's the reason why I got into youth ministry. It's the reason why I continue to serve kids. It's your hip hop music that kind of led me through some dark areas of my life. And then he says to me in response, "Do you mind if I share that with my family later today when I talk to them?" And I was like, yes, that's fine. Like I didn't know what to say.
Sure.
I was really shocked. But I lead that with, when you were talking about in your first book, the chapter, the Jesus Freak chapter, how surreal it was for you to be on stage rapping the Jesus Freak part. Yeah. And he's on stage at the same time. I know you did a really good job in the book, but help me out. Like, really, what was that like for you? Because again, for me, that would be the moment, like in my life, that I would be like, this is just unreal.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one was a little different because, so it's at Camp Electric, right? And so that night of Camp Electric is a very interactive night for Toby. So it's it's really the only time I've ever seen him where, like, he kind of opens up his performance to the crowd. So these kids that are there, I mean, they're musician kids. So he'll let a kid sit in and do one of the verses, or he'll, XYZ. So it wasn't, and granted, it's a room full of kids. It wasn't a huge room, and it wasn't a huge amount of kids. I feel like it might have only been 500 to 700 amount of kids.
That's still a lot of kids. Sorry, intimate. I mean, from a youth guy perspective, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah, but I mean, in the context of it, these are kids I've been hanging out with all week. So it was
I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm there at the camp, and I've been there for years and years and years. I'm there, like, I perform, but I also do a hip hop class and stuff. So, long story short, for him to call me up, it was totally on the spur of the moment. I'm literally in the back because I was hosting. I'm literally in the back, like, I'm exhausted, like my head's against the wall, my eyes are closing, And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, it would be like crazy if he called me up to do that. And literally, he did, and I was so spacing out, I didn't realize it. And so people were like, dude, he's calling for you. So I go on and I'm thinking he wants me to do what the kids have been doing, which is kind of almost like a hype man, you know, be a part of the vibe type thing. That wasn't it. You know what I mean? So like when he, you know, when the song started and he just kind of looked at me and like stood to the side and crossed his arms, like, go ahead. You know, I was like, oh, that's what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So like, I wasn't really,
yeah, because it's not rehearsed, right? As you said, it's not rehearsed. Like you didn't he didn't come to you ahead of time and like, hey, you know, KJ, Jonah, this is what we're gonna do.
But he knew he knew that I'm like a freestyle guy. You know what I mean? So like there was another time, I feel like it was probably after that moment, but like there was another time he literally pulled me up and his band was jamming and I freestyled with the band like on the spot. You know what I mean? So he knew I rock in the improvisational world. It just happened to be, like I said, I had a different thought process of what was happening, but he does his set sometimes there acoustically, like it's a stripped down version. So like instead of a drummer, they have a guy on the djembe, you know what I mean? So he's reinterpreting these songs in that context, you know what I'm saying? So long story short, you know, I went through the first verse fine, but that's all I had ever done. That's all I had ever done live with Tate, you know, and I had been doing it with Tate for the previous year or two, with the Newsboys. And so when he comes to the second verse, I'm like, I'm blanking out on stage. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the second verse is. I'm going to blank out in front of him, the crowd. You know, it's not like I'm just a random guy. Like I did his version first with the Newsboys. So it just happened to be the last second. Like I said, the synapse was fired and I remembered it, but it was just a funny moment. You know, that's all it was.
To me, it had to be probably the most surreal moment. So, not that this even compares, but I was at a church camp, and we had a worship band, and they all week long, I'm like, you know, yelling, Jesus freak, like every time they would, you know, get up for worship. And the end of the camp, the last night of camp, they did like a rock set, and they did Jesus freak, and so I got to go up and rap that part.
There you go.
So when I heard that in the book, it kind of made me think of that when, again, not even on the scale of having Toby just standing there. I wouldn't even know what to do. I just like, marmalade, jelly, you know, some tats. I mean, I wouldn't know what to say.
You know, it was just one of those funny moments. And I thought, like, if you had to like make a Venn diagram of this, like this should like, the space-time continuum should like open up and swallow me or something like that. Like, just looking at it, like I'm on stage with the guy who wrote the song for the original band, which now I did with another band that is not the band that brought in the guy from the original band for me to do his verse on the original guy's new band. And now I'm back with the original guy.
We need like a map and like strings and you know what I mean? Like all of that.
Yeah, you would go insane.
Because exactly, and that's what I mean, all of the chapters were good. You did a phenomenal job in the first book, and like I said, I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy of the second book. But the first book, that chapter resonated with me the most, probably because of my love and affair for Toby and DC Talk and all that. But to me, when I'm hearing that, when I'm listening to that back, like I'm like, I can't even imagine what he was feeling like. Like, I can't even, like, again, the space-time continuum, you said it more articulate than I did, but it was just so mind-blowing to me.
Well, the funniest thing about the whole thing was, like, you know, it got done or whatever, and I walked off the stage, and I'll never forget, because Jamie Grace, who at the time was signed to go see, I think she sat in on a song or two with Toby or something, I don't remember, something like that. And, you know, I had known Jamie for years, but, you know, she was like a teenage kid when she saw me perform at a thing called the Revolve Tour. So she was a fan of me. Like, the first time I ever met her, she's like quoting my songs and stuff like that. And I'll never forget, she had a camera and she ran around the back after I walked up the stage. She goes, my two favorite white rappers on one stage, and I have the footage. And it was the funniest thing to say. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm like, can I get the footage? You know? Anyway, it was just, you know, something else that made her happy. So
that's hilarious. Cool. No, I wish I could have been there because, yeah, I mean, so your story, how you and I connect, which again we've never talked until now, but so you know I'm a youth guy and we're doing a lock-in, and I know you've done those. For those that don't know, it's where we, as youth leaders, we torture ourselves all night by locking ourselves in a church with middle schoolers and high schoolers, usually 40 to 50 of them, all night long, usually from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. So if you're not familiar with the lock-in, it is actually worse. Okay, it's not worse than crucifixion, but it's probably up there. It's up there.
Yeah, because we can recover.
Yeah, it does. And so I'm always looking for like upbeat music, to keep the kids pumping, like boom, boom, boom. And I come across, I think I'm going to mess this up. Game time? That's one of yours? Game day. And
Game face.
Say it one more time.
Game face.
Game face. Thank you. I knew I was going to mess that up. But I'm like listening to this and I'm like, wow, this is really good. Like I need to put this on the running mix, and it is still to this day on my running playlist. Just want to let you know that. And so I'm like listening to this, and I had an elder come to us and say, that song's from the devil. I'm like, actually, no, it's not. It's not at all. No. He's like, I can't understand the words. I'm like, do you want me to get the lyrics printed out for you? Because they're available. Let me get them for you.
I literally did a lyric video for it, so there's no excuse.
There's no excuse. Like I should have maybe shown that. I don't know.
It wouldn't have mattered.
But it was hilarious. I thought I would share that with you because I've always found that funny. So it's one of the youth funny stories.
Well, not the first time, and it won't be the last for me.
Yeah, I'm sure not. So I'm curious, like, what's the biggest venue you ever played, people wise? Do you know?
That is actually a chapter in the new book called "The Biggest Show I Ever Played."
Okay, so we don't want to give anything away yet. Or do you want to,
it's fine.
Want to tease it?
I have no problem.
All right.
No, I just meant I was like interesting you'd say that because that's a common question.
Okay.
It was outdoors. It was in Marrakesh, Morocco. I went over there with Creation Fest, and it was a festival called Friendship Festival put on by the Moroccan government to foster unity between Christians and Muslims, even though that really honestly wasn't what it was. It was just a concert. But it was, if you can picture 50,000 Muslims rocking out to KJ52, they don't speak a lick of English. I don't speak Arabic, but it was crazy. They would be chanting us. They would chant between them playing Michael Jackson's Thriller between every band. They would be chanting KJ, KJ, KJ. So if you go on my social media, you can see a picture of it.
So 55,000, was that the number you said?
Well, that was the estimate. It's not like they went through but it was just a sea of people, and where it was done, like it was like the whole city came out essentially. So
got it.
It's just different over there. Like if the government does something, they really honor their government and their I guess they have a king or a prince, and it's just a different world, man.
Yeah, I imagine. So we had a musical artist on, actually a guy from the Northwest. He played in a band called the Incandescent, and so I challenged him with this question too. So I Googled for a previous show, 4.3 million people. Or sorry, 3.5 million people. 3.5 million people. Rod Stewart apparently has the record.
Okay.
3.5 million. So I'm just curious, like if you're on that stage, 3.5 million, what song are you going to be singing or rapping?
At that point, it really doesn't matter. That's just, I don't know. I could probably go look at Live Aid and see what they did.
Did you say Live Aid? That's awesome.
Yeah, I would go look at Live Aid and be like, what song did they do at Live Aid?
Do some Bohemian Rhapsody.
What thing in YouTube do? What's that?
Do some Bohemian Rhapsody or something. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know if I do Bohemian Rhapsody myself. I would do my own version of Bohemian. Now, I don't know what I would do. Honestly, man, that's a great question. I don't think I would. Whatever I picked, I wouldn't do it lightly.
Yeah, because I wonder, right? I know you're big on you're not afraid. You're not going to hide in the shadows. Your faith is out in front of you. You're not going to shy away from that. And I think that's amazing. By the way, that is a tremendous testimony. That no matter what you say, no matter what you do, Jesus really comes off of you and out of you. And so that's why I was curious, like, if you had your pick of the songs, and it doesn't even have to be
You know,
your song, it could be someone else's.
I might, you know what? I mean, in hindsight, I might do Dear Swan. I mean, that's kind of like the iconic song that, I mean, I guess, if you have a chance to address the world, why not address the world with something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, so probably Dear Slim Part 2. I think that's what I would do. Full band though.
Do you regret?
String section.
Do you regret it at all, Dear Slim? In any way?
No, absolutely not.
Because I know you're like,
No, I mean,
you said a while back, you're like what was it, 50th like worst hip hop moments, like you're in there, or 20th worst hip hop moments.
yeah, number 26. I was number 26 of the least hip hop moments of all time. Put on by VH1 and then narrated by a bunch of comedians who had nothing to do with rap. So there you go.
and to this day, you've never met Eminem, right?
I've not met Eminem. The closest I ever came to meeting anybody was, and I talk about that in the Dear Slim chapter, but I say, when Kim Mathers was in jail, I was able to kind of write back and forth with her through a prison guard that was witnessing to her. But no, not met him. I don't think I ever will. But I don't think that, honestly, man, it wasn't really ever even in the thought process. Like I didn't. It wasn't like a means to an end. It had a purpose. It was just something I wanted to say, and it took a life of its own.
It really did. To this day, when I hear Dear Slim Part 2, like I do kind of weep a little bit because of how raw and real you are in that song. To me, it is still probably one of your best, and at least in my mind. I mean, you have so many others, but that one ranks up there in the top, easily the top 5, if not top 10. But with that, I'm always curious of this, and I've always been curious of this. Do you know what you'd say to him?
If I met him?
Yeah, if you met him.
Like if I talked to him?
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, man, did you hear the song or what?
That's awesome. I'm sure you get asked that like 1.5 million times, but
I don't know if I would say, honestly, I think I'd just talk about some hip hop stuff. I mean, like, we got a lot more in common than probably the average person that he might meet. He's a couple years older than me, but not by much. But I mean, the main thing is, we came up in similar eras, similar circles. I'm down in Florida, he's in Detroit. But I mean, I did, spend my summers in Michigan. So, like, I kind of understand someone who's from Michigan, what goes into, makes them what they are. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I would just, I'd be like, hey, which KRS-One album do you think is the best? Which Tribe Called Quest album you like the most?
Right.
I just don't. I'm kind of wary of ever going into any conversation with people with an agenda. I think you're better off just letting things run their course and just deal with people on regular levels. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. No, I do. Like almost like scripting, like, okay, I'm going to say this, then he's going to say that, then I'm going to say this, then he's going to respond.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I don't like bait. I don't like being bait and switch. So I'm sure he probably wouldn't either.
Yeah. So, do you ever feel like you failed in the music industry at all?
I don't think I failed. I think there's some things I failed per se. Like, there's some things I look back and be like, yeah, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But no, I have no complaints, man. Like, it's been a good run. Is there like really key moments that happened that I wish I could have prevented? Absolutely. Like, there's probably 3 key moments that I really wish, I had the hindsight to see then, but there's no way I could have. And I actually talk about that in the new book. There's one of the final chapters is called Overcoming Bitterness, and it's related directly to about 3 incidents where, I don't know if I failed as much as I just dealt with the repercussions of other people's failure. But to me, like, I'm kind of hard on myself, so I feel like, I should have preventatively protected myself. You know what I mean? So.
No, I do. And obviously we didn't talk ahead of time, so I don't know what the book is going to involve or anything like that. And so I'm awesome. I'm awesome. It's awesome that we're alluding to stuff that's in the book that we don't even know about. That to me is pretty cool to do. So, greatest cost for you in following Christ has been what?
Can you say again? Greatest what?
Yeah, greatest cost to you in following Christ.
I mean, it probably comes down to some relationships that maybe aren't as good as they could be. You know what I mean? Because of who Jesus is in my life, and people may not understand that or think that, it's a waste of time, or, I mean, I guess is that a cost? I guess so. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily live my life with regret. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's not even realistically now, but I could certainly say back as a new believer, there were certainly multiple incidents that I had to some literal moments where I had to put my hand to the plow and not look back. And I left some things behind, or left some people behind, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean that's always the tough thing, right? I mean, when people don't want to come with you in that,
at the time it's super tough.
It really is. Yeah,
tough.
I have multiple stories like that myself. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you already said there's no regret, so this is maybe a throwaway question, but nothing you would go back and change, anything like that?
Oh, there's tons of things I go back and change.
Oh, all right. Do you
There's
have
a lot of things I go back and change.
Do you have like 2 things, 3 things, 4 things? I don't know.
2 things I would go back and change. You talking about in my life or in music?
Well, yeah, just in general, yeah. I mean, now looking back over this 20 plus year span, I'm sure there's a ton of you would change. So
I would say in music, there was a couple incidents where I knew that somebody did not have my best interest in mind. I shouldn't say knew, but maybe I had an inkling feeling that someone's like going to screw me over. And I probably just hoped for the best instead of actually being realistic. You know what I mean? Like there was times where, I might have got a little bit lazy and just defaulted to, this person or that person when I really should have taken ownership over it myself, and subsequently, thank God I had some people that were like looking out for me, like, you got to watch that person. But, I would have liked to lessen the damage. You know what I mean? I hate to say corny phrases like nip it in the bud, but
you know what I mean? As a cliche kind of guy.
No, well, it's more financial. I mean, most of this stuff is just related to financial. Like, I would have been in a better financial state. You can make better, moves and all those things. So, yeah, man, I regret getting burned for a lot of money, and sometimes you just can't prevent all of it, but I don't know. I'm a perfectionist, and I always think if something bad happens, could I have prevented it?
No, I think I can relate with you on that too, for sure.
Yeah.
So you talk about the financial costs from the sound of it. I mean, that's had a pretty big impact on your family, right?
Yeah, at times, absolutely. You know what I mean? Like there's times where we've had to sacrifice, and I mean, part of me is like, and listen, I've had a lot of conversations with God about this. Like, God, you could have prevented this. Why did you allow this to happen? And I'll be honest with you, maybe in the divine grand scheme of things, it was to teach me, a greater sense of trust, a greater sense of overcoming. Would I have the degree of faith that I have now? Probably not. Hard times like bring out a certain thing in you. And I've talked about this at length, but 5 years ago, contemplated quitting, really hit the rock bottom. But out of that actually came graffiti art. Out of that came doing schools, public schools. Out of that came a refocus back to doing church ministry. Like, so I know this had a purpose, So part of me is like, I would have loved to avoid that, but the other part of me is like, man, like I wouldn't be as good as I am had it not happened.
No,
So
I think that's powerful. I really do. Like I have no response to that because I'm like, that's some good stuff there. Yeah.
I'm just, I'm the guy jumping out the window going, I have no regrets.
That's awesome. That's funny. Is there anybody you'd like to collaborate with, or anybody you'd love to share a stage with that maybe you haven't?
Well, I mean, I've said it before. Like, Tony's the only guy I never did a song with. Like, I think that would have been cool. Might be too late now, but he's probably the only guy. I mean, yeah, I got mainstream artists that I've always been a massive fan of. That's just pipe dreams. But I'm a huge fan of Sting and the Police, and people like say, well, who's the rapper you want to collaborate with? I'm like, I don't know if I really, like, even the guys I'm huge fans of. I don't know if I necessarily want to collaborate with them because the content's foul. You know what I mean?
Vanilla Ice, right? I mean, no. Okay, all right. Sorry.
No, I did 2 shows with Vanilla Ice.
Oh, that's right.
Not
You did.
impressed.
That's right.
I was not too impressed.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That was in the first book.
In the term, in the rap world, we say he caught a lick. That's about it.
So,
got lucky.
My last question, then I want to play a game with you if you're good with that.
Sure.
So, how do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered? I mean, I just want to remember the guy who was faithful to his calling, faithful to his wife, faithful to his kids, and hopefully along the way impacted some people. That's probably the same thing I would have said all those years back. Yeah, I don't think that's ever changed.
I mean, is legacy something you strive for, like to be remembered, or is this something that's just kind of the result of what you're doing? You hope that's remembered.
Like it's like drilling a hole in a piece of wood. I'm not doing it for the sawdust. Sawdust is a byproduct of it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to leave a legacy. I don't think I was ever even thinking about that. But if you faithfully do what you do, you will, as a byproduct, leave one.
Now, I know you have kids. Do they know about like all of your career? I mean, they weren't around for all of it, but do they look at you any differently?
Every once in a while, my son will be like, I think we were driving somewhere and he was saying some stupid freestyle goofy rhymes or something like that. And I'm like, it's probably the one thing I can be like, no, this is the way Dad says you're supposed to do it. I mean, how dads can say that. And he was in the car with his friend. And, I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and like show my kid up or anything like that. But I think I did start freestyling or something like that. And he just said, well, of course, Dad, that's what you do.
Like, did they ever jump on YouTube and look at old like music videos of you and stuff? Like bring your friends over and be like, hey, look at my dad back in the day.
No, well, he's dropped. I've heard it depends on which kid. Like my youngest is 4, so he's just too young. But the middle son, he's got a few of the videos that he like thinks is hilarious. Like he thinks the Christmas video is hilarious. He thinks the Do You Thang video is hilarious. So he has like legit questions about those videos. Like, who are these people in the video? Like he has actual fascination over some of those things.
Your Christmas video this last year was hilarious. You're riding on one of those little animal things around the mall. I've always wanted to do that. I was so jealous of that.
That was a bucket list.
I was so jealous of that. I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, I full disclosure, like that was not like in the script. We got in that mall and I'm like, turn the cameras on now. We're doing this. Like, just get the footage until we get kicked out. And sure enough, we were almost kicked out. But, yeah, like that's my middle son. But my middle son, like he has a straight up playlist of Christian rap. You know what I mean? And like, he's got like 1 or 2 of my songs in there. But I'm not his like go-to default favorite rapper. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm sure it's somebody
still
else.
only 9, so he's figuring out what music is. But
yeah,
like my oldest, he'll name drop me every once in a while in Fortnite or something. And he's playing somebody, and they're like, "What's your dad do?" "Oh, my dad does this," and then he'll be like, "No, he don't. No, he doesn't." And then sure enough, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on." You know what I mean? So
yeah, get a little street
But no,
cred
I mean, mostly I'm dad, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so KJ, real quick before we play our game, how can people get the book? Where can they get the book? Where can they get the CD? All that.
Yeah, super easy to remember. Just KJ52book.com. Right now, as we're taping this, it would be in the pre-sale mode, but probably by then it should be done by the time this drops.
All right. So go there, check that out. We'll of course link that in our show notes. So
and it'll be on Amazon too.
Awesome.
Sorry.
We love Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon's amazing. Yep. All right. So you're not here, but we always play this game called Senseless. So I'm rolling on your behalf. So here we go. You probably hold the dice roll. Maybe you didn't. This is a good question for you, especially as a youth leader. Who's touching your life right now, or who is impacting your life right now?
Well, I mean, I'm in an interesting season. You know, like I'm full-time on staff at a church. So I'm like just been moved into a completely different frame. I don't know if I have one specific person as much as it's like the sum total of all my interactions and what I get to do. You know what I mean? Like we just came out of a 16-day fast. Is there one person that was impacting me through that fast? Not really, but the fact that the church would put that in place, and not in the sense of like, you have to refrain from eating and starve yourself. It was like, go find something that you can dedicate and fast from and go deeper in God, you know? So, yeah, I mean, so like, I don't have one specific person. I guess this is not even a spiritual thing, but I have a running coach right now that has really pushed me to get better in my running, even though I was like doing very well. It was just that I lost some of my speed, and I kind of gave up on it. I'm like, oh, I'm just too old to get that fast again. And the guy was like, no, you can do it. And he's been coaching me through a month. So actually tomorrow I find out if I am actually able to do it.
And what led to that? I was curious about that, being a runner myself. What led to that?
Well, like in high school, you know, and I mean, this is where the victory lap term comes from, but in high school I ran the half mile and I ran the quarter mile, but I was good enough to be on the team, but I was never fast enough to place. Like I'd always be like, if there was 4 places, I get 5th. If there's 3 places, I get 4th. I can only place once. But sport is super competitive. So terrible. I always loved watching those people that won and then got to take the running victory lap. So that's really where the term victory lap came from for the book. As I got way older and later in life, I started running again and started running faster than I did in high school. So I'm like, that doesn't make sense. How am I at 38 running faster than I was at 18? And then I got, you know, nothing like I was like super competitive or anything, but I just got to the point where I was like, man, I feel really good about like my running times. And then all of a sudden in the last 2 years, you know, I went from running like a sub 6 mile to like barely doing 6:30. And I was working on other stuff. So maybe that was why my running went down. And part of me was just like, well, like I'm a couple months from 45, like you just start losing lung capacity. I just got to accept that I'll never go back to what I was. And this guy was a friend of my former pastor. And he said, oh, I could totally get you under 6 minutes mile. I'm like, no, you can't. I'm like, all the studies say, you know, you lose your VO2, you know, after a certain age. He's like, no, we can do it. And he just started coaching me for the last month. Real simple stuff, but it really challenged me. And tomorrow I race, and I use that word in quotes because I'm only racing my time to see if I can beat it.
So you're not racing like in an event or something?
But I've, you know, dedicated a month to get there.
Nice. That's awesome. To me, when we started this series on vision and identity and cost, you immediately jumped to the forefront in my mind as someone who could really speak about that because of your nature of hip hop bringing Jesus to a lost world. And to me, that was just always kind of just something that resonated with me. And obviously there's been some costs along the way, and your vision never got derailed in any way. And I've always valued that. So thanks for giving us some moments today. The hip hop, the freestyle was amazing. We're really excited about that. So with that said, we'll just kind of get out of here. So there we are. KJ52. Jonah, go check out his book. It is available now. We'll give all that information in our show notes. So be sure to stay tuned until next week when we get in somebody's shoes. After all, this is Other People's Shoes. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Of course, I'm your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, stay tuned till next week. Thank you so much for joining us on Other People's Shoes today. I gotta tell you, a little bit of a dream come true in a sense to sit down and talk with KJ52 today. Long-awaited episode. We worked really hard to bring that to you, so I'm finally excited that all that work paid off. By the way, here's a sneak preview of next week's episode.
And I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, what are you doing? Why would you let this happen to me? And just tons of anxiety. And it said that I would have to meet, with a panel of, folks from the presbytery for them to decide if I needed to be put on, administrative leave. And I was really anxious, but then it was interesting because over the next few days, the anxiety just sort of diminished. And I was like, you know what, Lord, you got me through it the first time. You'll get me through it again.
Marcus has a very compelling story, and he talks about just this crazy series of events that took place of how he was wrongfully accused of something, and you're not going to want to miss that. It has a lot of twists and turns to it, so stay tuned next week for that. But until then, just remember these things. Of course, just want to run down. If you want to hear past, present, and future episodes, of course, you can do so at opspodcast.com. That, of course, is a great place for past, present, and future episodes. That's where they'll be. Of course, our show is a non-profit show. So what that means is you can actually contribute to the show. We would love that. And we, of course, have linked our PayPal information down below in our show notes. So please, of course, take a look at that. For questions, feedback, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep going forward. We, of course, would love to receive a text or voicemail from you, and that can be done at 203-548-7463. That's 203-548-7463. Or shoo. Pretty cool, huh? And, of course, like us, tweet us, follow us on all of our social medias, that, of course, being Facebook under OPS Podcast Show. Instagram, the same thing, OPS Podcast Show. And, of course, Twitter. We are on Twitter as well under OPS Podcast Show. And just remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. On behalf of Garrett and myself, we look forward to you joining us next week as we try on other people's shoes. Until then, have a great week.